groups in the church now, and they've formed the kind of the fabric or the backbone, the foundation for the church, where people can come together and build relationships with one another. And it's really been exciting to see that. And I think it's not only the growth of the small groups that has been important, it's also the caring and the support that the small groups have given people. You just better hold it there, Celestia. You're running ahead of yourself there. But the support of the caring of the small groups. We've got some outstanding examples of people who've cared for one another in the small groups. And that's been a really key thing in the life of the church. It's helped to build a real sense of caring in the church, a real sense of openness of heart to one another. And when people come into the church, they often make comments about that, of the openness of people's hearts to one another in the life of the church. And we want to see that continuing to grow. We've got interview with another couple this afternoon to see whether they're going to be the people who come on as assistant pastors in the church. So we're just really trusting God to show us the right people who can pick up and keep on growing our small group ministry. In 2006 and 2007, we faced three major changes in the church here. First major change was that we'd run out of room for our children's ministry. Remember, all you people involved with the FBI, the intermediate age group, we used to bus all the kids down to the Undertaker's Hall. Remember that? I used to take my hat off to all the people involved in those days with intermediate age, because that was quite a thing, busing them all down to the Undertaker's Hall. And we brought on the old classroom at the back there for extra room, for a room for children's ministry. It's now our prayer room. But we'd run out of space. Pauline used to have them all in the foyer, in my office. You know, every spare inch around the place there was another classroom of kids, because we just run out of room. Run out of car parking space. And so we realised we had to make some big decisions, to make some changes. And at that stage we brought the Baptist consultants in to help us process that through. And they made some very clear recommendations. And so we, in the beginning of 2007, we started the 2 morning services. And we thought, man, this is going to be a big change. But it was amazing how virtually from the day one, it was just like it fitted in like a hand in a glove, and no complaints. It was just like everybody said, yeah, we're growing, we're on the move. And so the 2 morning services have been going on since then. And it's been really fantastic. Second major challenge was that we faced a building program to build new facilities for our children and youth kind of work. Now that took a lot longer than we anticipated, but at the beginning of last year we opened that new hall complex out the back. And that was a great day, opening that complex. And remember, we had the mayor and the MPs here, and we celebrated the opening of that building. What a great thing it was. That at the time we opened that building, that was worth over $800,000. We didn't have to take out any interest-bearing loans on that building. And that was just really special, that God had blessed us. Even though it took us a long time, the end result was a good one. And I don't know about you, but I sometimes wonder how on earth did we get on without those buildings now. And it's been fantastic to see the growth of the different ministries using those facilities out the back since we've built them. So that's been a real blessing. Third major challenge was at the beginning of 2007, the leadership felt really convicted that we'd been focusing on the health of the church. It's now time for us to start looking outwards. And I remember very clearly saying to the church, that the leadership is really convinced that we now needed to focus on our community ministries and to put more emphasis on reaching out through our small groups and through all the other work in the church here. And so we started putting greater emphasis on our community ministries. And this year we've had that great series, Learning to Embrace the Neglected, which helped to focus on that whole process of reaching out into our community. We now have 14 community ministries in the church, which again, I keep on being blown away when I just realise, where God's brought us. 14 different community ministries. Now, I believe that this year, for us on the leadership team, And just want to say that on Friday night at our AGM, Tim Roper and Titus Bruin were appointed onto the leadership team. Well, Tim has been on, but he was reappointed for another 2 years. And Titus is now on the team as well. But the big challenge that I believe that faces us as a leadership team is how are we going to incorporate all those different community ministries into the fabric or the life of the church? Because it's very easy, and we've heard other churches say that when you grow all these community ministries, it's very easy for the people in them to feel isolated. And, they get further away from the kind of the life of the church, and they can very easily end up being isolated out there. Thank you, Richard. And so one of the big challenges for us is how do we support and resource and encourage all the different community ministries so that they're very much the fabric and the life of the church. And right now, I'm not quite sure how we're going to do all this, but I said to the leader, I don't know how to do all this. You're going to have to help me here to kind of work out how to structure it all and fit it into place so that we can really resource and encourage and support the community ministries. Because I'm very aware, like Richard was saying about icons are virtually full up. Same with Mainly Music. Mainly Music got a waiting list, I think, of about 30 ladies, You can't get in. There's so many people kind of waiting on the waiting list. And one of the things they say about church growth is once your groups are all full, you won't absorb any more people. You've got to keep on multiplying your small groups and also your community ministry groups. And so one of the challenges, how can we do that? How can we encourage it? How can we resource it? And I think that's actually a big challenge for us for this coming year. Now, where am I in all this? Actually, I've jumped ahead of myself, but that's all right. Anyway, I just think it's really exciting as we look back and see how God's led us. Sometimes when you're in the midst of it, it's really always hard to say, God, what are you saying to us here? And sometimes when you look back, it's actually clearer. God's hand has been there, directing, guiding, helping you to make the right decisions, putting people in the right place. And so I just say, God, we want to celebrate your goodness today as we look back and say, you've had your hand of grace and favour and blessing on us to see good things happening in the life of the church here. So we thank him for that. Now, I want to go on this morning and say now, okay, well, what about the future? And many of you have picked up our little Vision, Values, Mission little booklet. And if anybody wants a copy of that, I think there's some around. It just outlines what our values are, what our mission statement is. We changed that at the beginning of the year. Our vision statement that really says what we're all about is loving God, what we're here doing this morning, loving God, and loving others. That's what we're all about here as a church. We want to love God, and we want to love other people. And so this little booklet helps to outline our vision, values, and mission. And it's also got in this little book some of the major areas of focus for us in the next 12 months. For example, I just want to run through some of these. First one is the growth and the effectiveness of our community ministries. One of the things that we were challenged about when we did the Learning to Embrace the Neglected, and we pinched that series from Hillsborough Baptist, and so we followed their example. We, at the leadership, we decided that we would put in the budget this year, we would tie their budget, as it were, of 1% of our budget, and put that in a fund for people in need, a needy fund. We're going to call it, after Russell McGill's suggestion, the Inasmuch Fund. Jesus said, inasmuch as you've done this for my brothers and sisters, you have done it for me. And so that's one of the reasons why our budget has gone up, and I'll talk about that as well, our budget, is that we're going to take 1% out of our budget and put that into this needy fund. And what we want to do is challenge you to do that as well. To challenge you to say, I'm going to put 1% of my income into this Inasmuch Fund, so that we actually I know Grant's really challenged us about this. You know, I've just been generous in our heart towards needy people.